In the United States, we're champions of balance. In our tax system, we have provisions in place to make sure that the wage differences between people are accounted for, that our system of taxation has equity. In our government, we have checks and balances systems to make sure that there is equality between different branches and groups within the government. And yet, despite all of these provisions and all of these systems that we have in place for balance and equity and equality, somehow when it comes to the business sector, the United States can't seem to transfer those ideas onto the entities in the business world today. For example, we have large multinational corporations that are being held to the same standards as small businesses that have less than 15 or 20 employees. Because of that disparity, we're seeing large inequality in the United States, large inequities happening between these businesses, which ultimately hurts the businesses themselves, hurts consumers, and hurts employees at small businesses. And thus, the first step to solving these inequalities and how we're treating corporations is to address the minimum wage laws between these corporations. So first, when we talk about small businesses and minimum wage laws, in the status quo, the minimum wage laws apply to all corporations and companies within the United States, including small businesses. Unfortunately, according to Alexia Ruiz, a lifestyle journalist at the Chicago Tribune in December of 2014, she finds that the minimum wage laws often have a domino effect in the workplace. Specifically, when we raise the prices and the incomes of the lowest paid employees, the other employees that are getting more money are also expecting a wage increase. This has two harmful impacts on the small business community. First, any inequality that minimum wage laws are trying to solve for isn't actually occurring. If the lowest paid employees are being brought up along with everyone else, they're still at the bottom of the food chain, they're still disproportionately being harmed. So the minimum wage laws aren't actually addressing the issues they were created to solve. But second, this places an immense pressure on the small businesses themselves. Specifically when we look to the way that they're treating consumers and the way that they are forced to treat employees as well. According to Pepperdine University in May of 2014, according to their business school, they find that many of these small businesses, when they are forced and subjected to minimum wage laws, are actually forced to increase prices. 30% of small businesses increase prices when they are forced to subject to minimum wage laws that are unfair and not actually looking at the standards and the money that they have to pay employees. 14% cut hours of employees and 12% lay off employees. So what we're seeing is a broad harm to consumers when they're forced to pay more, a harm to business when they lose business because they have to increase prices, and a harm to employees when they are forced to be laid off or cut hours because of these laws. So if the United States wants balance and wants to do what's best for the economy, it must pass this piece of legislation. Okay. So when you talk about how everyone expects a raise within the workplace in small businesses, why exactly would everyone be expecting a raise? So the reason why is because when employees see that minimum wage employees are getting raises, they think it is it's most beneficial for them to also ask for a raise as well, because there are other employees in the workforce that are getting one. And when that occurs and when everyone's expecting a raise and an income increase, there's a pressure on the small businesses, and those that are paying the increase in wages to everyone, they're seeing that the other sectors of their business are also being hurt. But is it wise for the businesses to be paying them? Just because employees are asking for a raise increase or for a wage increase, does that mean that they're being granted one? Well, a lot of small businesses, when the option is losing employees that feel like they're not being paid properly because there are other people getting wages and their wage increases and they're not getting any, they could be losing employees, and that's why they're pressured into doing it. Okay, so when you talk about the 30% of small businesses that are increasing prices for consumers, they're not the majority, correct? No, they're not the majority, but when you take into account the amount of small businesses that responded saying that they would cut hours or lay off employees, that's the majority. The amount of companies that would take actions that are only beneficial to keeping their business up because of the small business laws that in turn, because of the minimum wage laws that in turn then hurt the rest of the economy.